Salam everyone, and today we study Parashat Tsav, the second parasha of the book of Vayikra, Leviticus, when this Shabbat is also known as Shabbat HaGadol. We'll come into it. How do you translate it? There's some opinions about it, many opinions, about why is this Shabbat, the Shabbat before Passover, called Shabbat HaGadol. Gadol means big or great. Uh, it happens to be this Shabbat that Parashat Tzav is on Shabbat HaGadol. We'll see the connection between the two. And this time also, Shabbat HaGadol is just before Passover because at the end of Shabbat, Saturday night is when we celebrate the Passover Seder. Okay, so what is the connection? And why is it many times that Shabbat HaGadol is Parashat Tzav, not all the times? And let us see what is the message for us, especially this year when we have Shabbat HaGadol on Parashat Tzav. So let us begin with the Parashah. Parashat Tzav, the second Parashah in the book of Leviticus. We can find it in the book of Leviticus, Vayikra, chapter 6, verse 1. וידבר אדוני עם משה לאמור, and God spoke to Moses, saying, צב את אהרון ובניו לאמור. And here is the name of the parasha, צב את אהרון, command Aaron and his sons, saying, זאת תורת העולה. This is the method, the rules of the offering, which is called Olah. Olah in Hebrew means ascending, the ascending offering. Okay, now the whole parasha is talking about, like the book of Leviticus, as we said last week, is all about what is known the sacrifices, or better, offerings. And as the Zohar explained last week, it's not about sacrifices you bring to idols. Why? Because you feel that you have to sacrifice something of yourself in order to appease the God that you worship. But that's idol worshiping, because we have no need to appease God because he's okay. Now, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, we are talking about the infinite force that created the universe. How could finite, limited creatures like us can make him upset? So this is a very childish perception that I need to appease God all the time. Why? Because when I'm hurt all the time is because the gods, the God, a God, is upset. And this is very, very not monotheistic. This is also a very unhealthy state of perception. So what is that? So what is the story about? So we have few major famous quotes in this parasha. One is Tzav et Aaron v'banav, command Aaron and his sons. Why using the word to command? Tzav means to command. Okay? But whoever is new to this study can say, just a second, doesn't it say that on Mount Sinai we had 10 commandments? Doesn't it say that the Torah has 613 commandments? And the Zohar is explaining to us that using the word commandment is a corruption. Why? If we are about understanding the purpose of the creation of the reality that we know, that we basically experience, the reality of human souls experiencing a life in a physical body, which means we are divine souls experiencing a very limited life in a physical, temporary housing, which is our physical body, that is not infinite, it is mortal. For matter of fact, almost everybody dies. Oh, we have some stories about in the Torah about Enoch, that he did not die. God took him to his place. He became an angel. And there's a similar story about Elijah, the prophet, who is Pinchas. And we have something like this about Moses, that he really didn't die. He didn't really become a corpse. He also, but except from these three, maybe there are a few others that I don't remember right now. Human beings, they live in a physical body on a limited time. They are mortals. What does it mean, mortal? The soul is immortal. However, the body is very, very mortal. Not just that we die sooner or later, but as the Zohar says, since the sin of Adam, we experience death many times daily, which means every time we get hurt, we get upset, every time we get disappointed and suppressed and so on and angry, we experience basically a different form of death. When death accumulates to a critical mass, we physically die. Okay? So basically, human beings need to fight death on a daily basis. If you don't fight it, you're basically dead. You just simply have a long, miserable death. It can take 20 years, 30 years, maybe 50, maybe 70, sometimes 100 years. But you are dying slowly with pain and misery. Unless you get the idea of the Torah, especially Mount Sinai Revelation, and this is starting with Shabbat HaGadol. Okay, this Shabbat. What does that mean? When we explain, so let us start with the Zohar study of this parasha, and slowly we get into the secret of how do we defeat death on a daily basis. We start the Zohar Parashat Tsav from the beginning. Zot Torat HaOlah. These are the rules. This is the Torah, which means the rules and the wisdom of the ascending offering. Rabbi Shimon Patach V'Amar. Rabbi Shimon opened and said, and he's quoting from Psalm 33, Tzidkatcha karei el mishpatecha to'om rabah. Your righteousness is like the mountains of God. What does that mean? This verse has been explained many times before. However, we want to bring another, that's how the Zohar works, bringing a verse and explaining a new angle of that verse. And from that angle, we learn about the parasha. Tachazi, come and see. Hi Olah, this ascending offering, Olah, סליקו וקשיו דכנסת ישראל לעילה, ודיבוקה דילה בגואלמה דעתי, ולמהווי כל אחד, בכישורה חדה, בחידו, ובגין דסלקה לעילה לעילה, כתיב זאת תורת. רזה דחר ונוקבה כחדה, תורה שבכתב ותורה שבעל פה, לסלקה בחביבותה. And I'll explain, I'll translate, and we learn from that the main point of this parasha. Olazo, this ascending offering, היא מעלה ומקשרת את כנסת ישראל למעלה. This ascending offering, Ola, is ma'ala. Ma'ala is bringing up, elevating. Okay, now you understand al in Hebrew. Al is above. Ma'ala as bringing up. El al towards upwards. Okay, so you should understand that source in Hebrew of ola al לעלות, okay, is bringing up and connects Knesset Israel, the gathering of Israel, which is the Shekhinah, the divine presence, למעלה. למעלה, again, same source, upwards. והדבקות שלה בעולם הבא, and it clings or attaches or glues, English is, it's very hard. The word is dveikut, which means to attach, to cling, to connect, בעולם הבא, to the world to come. שהיא בינה. להיות הכל אחד, so everything becomes one. What is the purpose of humanity? We were created, Genesis chapter 1, in the image of God. Each one of us has a divine, eternal soul. Rabbi Ashlag is explaining the basic Kabbalistic analysis is, what's the difference between God Almighty and a human soul? The difference is like a mountain and a rock. The mountain is the whole, the rock is part of the whole. The mountain is God, and the rock is a human soul. What disconnects the rock from the mountain? The axe. What disconnects between a human soul and God? The evil inclination, which means the human soul has always naturally the tendency, innate tendency, to always try to be ola, to go and ascend upwards. This is the tendency. Why? Because that's a nature. The nature of the human soul is divine. So why don't we just simply ola, going up and ascend every day up to the highest realms of heavens? Because we have a weight. This weight is the human body, which is a host of desires, selfish needs, and stuff like this. And what is called, especially the evil inclination, you call it Satan, Satan, the dark side. It's all about one thing. Why do we have that weight that brings us down all the time, which is the body with the evil inclination? One reason: no free lunches. We were created in the image of God, and we can't afford having all of this infinite wisdom, light, joy, and pleasure for free. We need to overcome all our personal darkness so we can ascend and cleave, connect, attach to our source, to the mountain, to the Almighty. This is what life is about, and that's all about. So, what is the fact of the Olah? Basically, this is a vehicle to ascend, to rise, and to connect everything to become one. Basically, human souls and the divine, they're one. It's only artificially that we are disconnected and separated. So, how can we remove the artificial separation, the artificial weight, that basically without this weight, we naturally ascend, run upwards to connect to our home, to the divine? Zot Torah. We have to use the connection of the Torah. That's why the word Torah, which means Torah means maybe the word theory. Some say theory is coming from it. This is the theory, the knowledge, the wisdom, and the guiding line, because Torah shehi mora. Torah is the teachings. A teacher is mora. To teach means, mora means showing the way. So the Torah is mora, which means showing the way for us to ascend above whatever is separating us from the source. Okay, and also the Zohar adds why the word zot torat, which again, it's going too much into Hebrew grammar that does not exist in English, so I have nothing to compare it to. But the word zot is female, Torah is a male in this context, which is male and female together. We have here a whole wisdom that what is a human life? We humans, human souls in a human body, but even without the human body, we are the creation. We are the female aspect of the creation. Why? Because we were created to be the recipient of the infinite light of the Creator. So we have this dichotomy between heaven and earth, the Creator and the creation, the dweller and the dwelling, shochen veshchina, which means it's a male-female relation, which means the light of the Creator and the Creator himself, we have nothing that we know about. He's beyond the infinite even. So we have the male force. This is the heavens. This is the light of the Creator. This is the upper worlds. And the female force, this is our souls, humanity, as a creation, as the vessel for the heavenly light. So all what life is about uniting the heaven and the earth, the male and the female. The moment we understand that idea, and we have simply to study in order to internalize that idea. It's all about uniting the heaven and the earth. The light, the essence of life, which is the male force, and the vessel that was created to receive that light. What is that vessel? Our soul. Our soul has also a vessel, the body. The soul needs the body to manifest itself. So when the soul takes over the body and turns that complex body-soul into a spiritual vessel for God's light, we basically complete the creation. Because right now, for most people, the body takes over the soul. The body has no idea whatsoever. It was created this way. The body negates, denies the heavenly forces of the creation, and the body is always into an addiction to the physical, mortal pleasures that are very limited on one hand, and also they're artificial. How do I know? Because when any kind of physical, mortal joy, it's very temporary. That's why it's mortal. There's death that is part of the package deal, which means you eat a great meal, you enjoy the food. The more you eat, the less you enjoy. Finally, you're heavy, you hate yourself, you're bloated, and you feel low and depleted, which means how long did the joy last? Not too long. 20 minutes, half an hour, maybe 2 hours, maybe you can linger it. Not too much. And that's the way it is with all of our bodily addictions. How do I know they're mortal? Death is in the package. How do you know death? Because you're high and then it's by. You have a great evening and then you have the morning after. What does it mean? You feel joy and you pay with coins of death coins. What does it mean? Disappointment, heaviness, all of the darkness that comes after the high. You have a party, maybe you enjoy the beginning of the party, but then you don't enjoy afterwards. This is it. You are in love, but in English you say you fall in love. Why do you fall in love? Because it's always falling. Because the love that all the songs, that all the romance are talking about, it's basically a very limited, mundane love. How do you know? There's always a disappointment. There's always the falling after. That's why you say falling in love. You see, falling is death. So death is in the package. Now, we are here in this world as human beings to overcome death, to turn death into life, to turn the mortality into immortality. How do we do that? When we connect to the divine spiritual joy. How do you know it's a divine spiritual joy? Here, what is more is more. The more you enjoy, the more you expand your ability to experience joy. You're happier, you're lighter, you feel more the divine, and how one of the main points that you know that you connected to a real, true, divine joy, you have less addictions, which means the addiction of food, sugar, gluten, alcohol, doesn't matter. Everybody has different addictions, and all of us have a whole, a host of addictions. They don't control us so much. And especially, how do I know that? I'm more happy. I'm more content. And it's a contentment that is not short-lived. It's a contentment that is basically a buildup of contentment that the more I enjoy, the more my capacity to enjoy grows. So, and therefore, that's why it says it is about ascending. Ascending, which means I'm not physically floating in a higher altitude. I'm simply on a higher frequency. Higher frequency means more joy, more happiness, less addictions, less pain, less death. Okay? So, how do I do that? I am uniting male and female together. And as it says, la'alot be'ahava, with love. It is, how do you know it's real? There's love and there is joy. If there is bitterness, misery, anger, and upset, how do you know? So we read it in the book of Leviticus also, chapter 19, verse 18. Love others as you love yourself, which means the more I am connecting to this immortality, to this immortal experience. And by the way, when I connect to that immortal experience, it stays with my soul forever. Lifetime, even if I didn't make it this lifetime, that experience that is true, it is immortal. It stays with my soul for eternity. Okay? How do I know? I feel love, which means when I exercise that union of heaven and earth, soul and body, light and vessel, when I experience that with properly, I've experienced love and joy. And that means that when I'm facing other people, I'm more tolerant, more accepting, more understanding. It doesn't mean that I agree with them, but they don't annoy me as usual. Because it's not about them, it's about me. So, connecting to the upper world with love, this is what ascending, what Olah is about. So now the Zohar goes into particulars. Verse 2 and it's a wisdom training we have to train daily through the whole day. Verse 2, כד יתער סיטרא צפון, כמה דוקים הדכתיב שמאלו תחת לראשי. כדן היא סלקה בחביבותה והתעטרה בימינה, והתחברה באמצעיתה, והתנער כולה מרזה דקודש הקודשים, ודם מגו דרזה דאדם, בירו דכהנא, ובצלותה ובשירתה. Okay, when the left side, the north side, awakens, what is north and left? This is what we call in electricity minus. Okay, what does it mean? The left side and so on. In a simple explanation, it's a Kabbalistic symbolism for desire. Desire is not wrong, if you understood what I explained before. We were created, which means human souls and bodies, were created purposely to receive God's light and pleasure and wisdom. Okay, this is a given. Without it, we don't exist. This is the main element. It's also called the fire element. That's the main element that makes us unique and purposeful. We have a purpose. The purpose is to receive. Do not forget it. Many pseudo spiritual movements are all about denying the left or north or the left side, the north side, or the element of fire. Like denying this element is death. Why? It's all what we are about. We are about receiving. It's like you cannot operate any electric device without a minus. The minus is not bad. The minus is an essential element. Okay? So when that side, the north side, awakens, which means I desire, I want. As we said, that's an element. It's not the evil inclination. It's an element, essential element, which is also gevura, as we already explained, as it says in the Song of Songs, chapter 2, smolo tachat leroshi. In every connection, we start with the left side is left under my head, which means this is the essence of the divine creation. We cannot receive God's bliss and joy without that element. That's why this element is essential. Any spiritual teaching was always telling you that you have to subdue, deny your ego, your desires, your needs. This is pseudo spirituality. It's not real spirituality. It's a fake spirituality. The only real spirituality is when you acknowledge that element of fire or left column or gvura or judgment. You have to use it because everything starts with that. You were created for that purpose. You're here to receive. Okay? So the fact that I want, I desire, I need, I'm a vessel, you cannot deny it. You cannot. Denying it is denying life. Then you need to sweeten the judgment. What does it mean? The moment you attach to the left column, to the element of fire, to the north side, these are all different names for the same element. The moment you allow that to go wild, you burn yourself to death because fire alone is dangerous. It's not that you have to subdue it again. You need to control it. You need to own it. You need to use it, not to abuse it. How do you use it? You awaken, and that's your job as a human being, as a divine creature, to awaken the right side, or the south, or the water element. How do you awaken that? Love, giving, which means you want to feel good, so to make it really simple, make sure that other people feel good too. Okay? You want to enjoy your coffee? Ask people around if they want you to make them coffee too. Just a simple thing. You make something good to eat, ask around. Maybe somebody wants to eat also from what you make. Okay? Don't eat alone. Share with other people. Invite other people to enjoy the, the event together and make it a spiritual event. What is called in Hebrew, seudah, support. When people join to eat together as a spiritual event, supporting each other, it's called seudah, not a meal. It's not an eating event. Okay? You use the eating to share with people food, joy, happiness, and togetherness. Then, when you do that, you create the third element. You create, when you merge the receiving. Yes, I need and I want and I'm supposed to receive. That's, as we said, the element of fire, the north. So I awaken. After awakening the left and the north, I'm awakening the south. How do I awaken the south and the right or the chesed? By creating acts of love, sharing, and giving without giving up the receiving. So when I do both, I create the third element, air, east, tiferet, central column, synthesis. The synthesis is my creation. That's my creation, being a physical human being that is also basically a merkava. A merkava, it's a composition of divine and mortal, a soul and a body. When I do that, I combine these three elements together, and then I can manifest it with the element of fire, west. When I do that, okay, and that's a training we have to do all our lives because there are different levels, and we have to look for the different levels, the different frequencies of the different levels daily, hourly. This is the name of the game. This is the Torah, Torat Haolah. This is the theory, the logic, the logos, Torah, of what life is about. Olah, ascending. What does it mean ascending? You acknowledge that you are down below by being a vessel, but you're here to merge the heaven and the earth together. So, when you do that, Veheir hakol misod kodesh hakodashim, then everything shines from the Holy of Holies. The Holy of Holies is again a code word. What's the Holy of Holies? When the universe was created, everything was one point. Infinite, the only way to describe to a human logic the infinite is one point. Because only one point has no dimensions. There's no right and left, up or down, backwards and forwards, no elements, which means there's no south, north, east, or west. There's no above and below. Everything is one. The only way to describe it for human brain is a point, the middle point. Why middle? Because the middle means that it connects all the extremes. It's all one, the creator and the creation. The whole universe starts with the infinite, and the only way to tell about it is one middle point. And then there was a tzimtzum, the contraction. It exploded. Big bang. Physicality started to be created through a long, long evolutionary process. What was the purpose of the process? There was a purpose. It was not random. Okay? Not random. They had a purpose, like everything in quantum physics. The purpose was, like in quantum physics, there will be a human brain, consciousness, that perceives the creation and wants, desires, yearns to connect the creation to be one again. When the space of darkness was created after the Tzimtzum, after the Big Bang, there was a darkness. Why was there darkness? Because only in the darkness we can create light out of darkness. Okay? A line of light came from the infinite into the darkness. That line came down till it touched what is called Nekudat Ha'olam Hazeh, the point of this physical mundane world. The world that has the ability to create enough distraction so we can feel darkness, doubt, death, and we can overcome it. That line of light is touching the point of darkness, which is the main manifestation of that is planet Earth. Planet Earth is the point of darkness. It is the only place in the creation that there's enough distraction, enough screening, enough blindness, so we can call it the place of free will. The point where the infinite line touches the physical earth is called the Holy of Holies. This is where King David bought that land from the king of Jerusalem, Aravna the Jebusite, and his son, King Solomon, built the first temple. Later on, the second temple was built over there, but it had a history. The same place is a place of the bounding of Isaac. This is the same place that Jacob had his dream of the ladder connecting the heaven and the earth. Same story. So when it says the Holy of Holies, it means reaching that state of mind that as a human being, I can connect to that place that unites the heavenly realm with the physical realm in a harmony, in a unison. This is why the temple was built on that location. Okay. So when we are talking about the offerings, about the Olah, the ascending offering, we are talking about, yes, there was a time in history in the Mishkan, the tabernacle that Moses built with the nation of Israel, 40 years in the desert, 39 years in the desert. Then more than 380 years, the tabernacle was in the Shomron, Samaria, first in Shechem, then in most of the time in Shiloh. Okay, and then it was destroyed by the Philistines. Few decades later, King David brings the Mishkan to what's left of it to Jerusalem, and then King Solomon builds the first temple. This is a physical element that manifests the metaphysical idea. But even after the temple in Jerusalem was destroyed, on the physical layer of it has been destroyed, we humans still have the ability to awaken that force that is called the Holy of Holies. When do we do it? That's the secret of Korban Olah, the offering of the ascending offering. So how? So he explains from the secret of the Kohanim, the Kohen, again, the Kohen in Hebrew, the person in service, or in simple language in English, a priest. The Kohen was the right column, the element of water. The Levi, left column, the element of fire. Israel, center column, the element of air. Together, they could connect the heaven and the earth. Okay? Through the prayer, through the offering, through the singing. So let us skip few sentences. And come one of the most amazing paragraphs in the whole Zohar. Verse 11 in Parashat Tsav. Rabbi Elazar Shail Rabbi Shimon Avoy. Rabbi Elazar asked his father, Rabbi Shimon, היי קישורה דחולה דתקשר בקודש הקודשים להתנערה. הידבקותה דרעבה דחני לוואי וישראל אילה, עד היכן יהיו סלקה. So Rabbi Elazar was asking his father, Rabbi Shimon, the connection of everything within the Holy of Holies is made to shine, to bring the light in. Now, that connection, that unity, that attachment of the will of the Kohen, the Kohanim, Kohen in plural, Kohanim, the Leviim, Levites, and Israel, the Israelites, how far can he go upwards? How far does it ola, ascend? How far can it ascend? So again, the word ola is not only for the offering, it's a game of words. Ola means ascending. אמר לו, so he answered, הרי העמדנו שהדבקות שלהם עולה עד אין סוף. Their עולה, ascension, goes all the way to the infinite, to the Ein-Sof. כי כל קשר וייחוד ושלמות הוא לגנוז בצניעות. Because every connection, every unison between the heaven and the earth, through meditation, prayer, singing, any kind of what is called worship of the only God. If it is real worship, the work of God is about unison. It's about connecting and uniting. It is to treasure in a hidden way that is שאינה מושגת ולא נוגעת, that cannot be perceived and cannot be known. Just give you an example, what does it mean? When a person reaches through hard work, real, true joy and happiness and love, through meditation, prayer, service, charity, all kinds of work, but that comes with that sense of uniting the south with the north, the water element with the fire element, and you're creating that synthesis with air as desire to receive for the sake of sharing, as a way to ascend and reach the connection to God, which means when I share with people, I don't do it with the agenda to get from them something in return. I do have an agenda. My agenda is to unite the right and the left, the receiving and the giving. When I care for people, I do it because that's my only way to ascend. When I meditate and send light to people, sick people, suffering people, whatever. Whatever I do is I want to receive light and share it. So it's in action, in meditation, in prayer, till I gain that nature of unison, of the basic three elements, water, fire, and air, and I manifest it in living, and that's the earth as a vessel for the light of the Creator. When I do that, I reach real, genuine, authentic, pure joy and love. Now, when somebody is asking me, explain what you feel, you cannot explain that. You know, the biggest psychologists, scientists, whatever, professors of research, you know, ask them, explain real pure joy. They don't know. How do you know? Look at them. They don't, they don't live it. Most of them are not happy, joyful people that are full of pleasure. They don't know how to feel pleasure. They are occupied with the brain activity. They don't understand. The only real, true, lasting pleasure is uniting the heaven and the earth, ascending above the body, not serving the body. So when you reach true love and happiness, you don't need explanation. You cannot use any explanation. It's beyond explanation. It's simply love is love and joy is joy and pleasure is pleasure. And whoever is explaining is because they didn't get it. That's why it's inconceivable, unexplainable. And that's what is called רצון כל הרצונות בו. That's where the ratzon, now the word ratzon in Hebrew has two meanings. One is desire, which is the male aspect, the female aspect. But there's the male aspect, appeasement, which means you have to understand. We desire to receive exactly what the Creator filled us with. How can I desire to receive something I never had? Again, how can I desire to receive something I never had? How can I yearn for something I never experienced? So when we look at that moment of creation that the Creator gave and we received, our vessel is big as God's giving. That's why the word, and it's defined, but one word, ratzon. From the point of view of the Creator, that's a definition of the greatest giving, okay, that He gave to us. And that's why from that point, it's appeasement, fulfilling, shining, giving. That's a male aspect of the word ratzon. The female aspect is receiving, enjoying, being a vessel to. It's like, you know, when you walk on the beach and you step in the sand. When you take your foot out of the sand, there is an impression in the sand. The impression is exactly the size and the shape of your foot, not less and not more. Okay? So the impression is the vessel, the creation, and what made the impression, the foot, is the giver. It what was given. Okay? That's again, it's an example, it's a parable. So that infinite light, that's infinite as its whole, is the experience of the Olah. It's infinite. אשר רצון כל הרצונות בו, it's touching that place that you are one with all the universe. That's experience of oneness that every true spiritual teaching is reaching to. You're one with everything. On one hand, you appreciate the giving of the Creator. On the other hand, because you appreciate His giving, You enjoy his bliss because you understand he created you to enjoy his bliss and nothing else. And that's infinite. Eino omed leivada. You cannot know that. You cannot understand that because it's beyond understanding. Understanding is through definitions. Definition and the infinite, oxymoron. Joy and happiness is beyond definition. It's when you let go of the definitions and enjoy the infinite. לא לעשות סוף, not about definition, ולא לעשות ראש, not about the head, not about beginning. Because a beginning and an end, both of them are about definitions. ולא כמו עין שהוא כתר נקרא עין, but it's not even the עין, which is the כתר. It's the keter is the first one that had a head and an end. מי הוא ראש? זו הנקודה העליונה. Who's the head? That's the upper point, which is the head of everything that cannot be explained. העומדת תוך המחשבה, that's a point that stands within thought. Which means there's a point in which there's no width, there's no depth, there's no past, and there's no future. It has no dimensions at all. That's when you reach the oneness and the infinite. And that's where the wisdom is. However, when we are talking about the union that is being achieved by the Olah, we're talking about the infinite. Infinite. Ein-Sof. Lo yesh sof. There is no end. There is no finite. Verse 13. En retzonot ve'en orot. When you reach that infinite, you don't experience desires. You don't experience lights. You don't experience candles in the endless. אין נרות באין-סוף. כולל האורות והנרות שבאצילות תלויים, באצילות תלויים באין-סוף שהתקיימו בהם. All of these lights, desires, appeasements, candles, emanations, they're already in the level or the frame of definitions. We want to reach beyond definitions. But reaching beyond definition, it means you have to let go of perception and explanation and understanding. You know what? When you feel one with the infinite joy and happiness and love, you don't need explanations. You don't need definitions, simply because you don't. מי שידוע ואינו ידוע, whoever is known and not known, היינו דף שאפשר לדבר בה מבחינת ידיעה, אין הוא אלא רצון העליון הסתום מכל סתום הנקרא עין. You can only talk about up to Keter. Keter is an emanation from the infinite. That's why it has a name. Keter, a name, is a definition. You can talk about Keter, but above it, the infinite, you cannot talk about it. But you can experience that. I think that we went a lot forwards. It's more about contemplation and meditation. How is that connected to our Parashah? So we said it's all about that. So what about this word Tsav, as we said, commandment? So we continue to verse 15. ועל כן ניתן צד האחר הזה ביד הכהן, and therefore the other side, that other side is the side that it's not right or left. It's not the four elements. It's outside that. It's called the dark side, the other side, Sitra Achra. The Kohen has the control over it. What is the Kohen in each one of us? Using the water element. Unconditional love and giving. Not because it's nice, not because it's logical, not because we have to, just because that's a way to connect to the infinite. That's a way to connect to godliness and the divine. Even though our body is saying, what about me? I want to have enough left for myself. No, you use the right column, the Kohen, the water element, the south, in order to subdue, but not to eliminate, to control the left column, to convert the north, the fire, into something of service. שכתוב צו את אהרון לבניו לאמור. ויש כאן סוד, because that's why it says, and God said to the Kohen, the priest, chesed, love and giving. Okay? And he said to him, this order is basically, כאן ניתן לו לשרוף את המחשבה הרעה ההיא. By giving him the order, the command, it's all about burning the bad, evil, selfish thought. We all have it. Without having that, we cannot create the ascension. This is how we get the ticket to ascend. It's not by eliminating the north or the fire element. It's by eliminating the dark side, the negativity, the selfish side. וכאן ניתן לו לשרוף את המחשבה הרעה ולהעבירה מן הקדושה ברצון הזה שעולה למעלה. And I'm skipping now to verse 17. We don't have enough time. It says, צו את אהרון ובניו, צו זהו עבודה זרה. The word צו, commandment, order, is idol worshiping. What does it mean, idol worshiping? You can declare yourself as a servant of God, and you declare that you follow the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and there are many of them. The Abrahamic religions, there are billions of them on earth. Are they really connecting to monotheism, to the one God? Do they really follow what we just spoke about? Do they really experience? The more they get the work, they do the work of God, do they really experience infinite joy and love without explanation, without the need for explanation? I doubt it. Otherwise, if that's what happened, the world will be so much nicer. And that's what we aim to. So, basically what the Zohar is saying, in order to achieve that Olah, ascension, you need to overcome that dark side that is looking always for the idol worship. That's the word Tsav. How is that connected to Shabbat HaGadol? Shabbat HaGadol is referred to the Shabbat before the Exodus. How did that happen? Just to give you the time frame, Moses meets Pharaoh after the burning bush experience. He says to Pharaoh, let my people go. And when Moses is mentioning the name of God, Pharaoh says, Hashem, I don't know him and I'm not doing anything for him. Who is he that I'm going to follow his orders? And the result is 9 plagues. 10 plagues. Just a second. First were 9 plagues. Why 9 plagues? 9 levels of destroying the klipa, the dark side, that Egypt was the head of the klipa of the whole planet. Pharaoh represented that more than anything else. Egypt, as the Arizal, Rabbi Zaklora explained, was a powerful empire because it sat on the tree of life in the most sensitive location on the neck. That's why Paro, Pharaoh, is the same letters as Haoref in Hebrew, the neck. That's where all the power of the brain, the mind, comes down, manifesting into the body. If you understand the picture of the tree of life, this is where the light, the force, the life force, comes from the upper three and starts to manifest into the lower seven, into the creation. Controlling that point is very strategic. This is controlling the whole planet. 9 plagues meant to break most of the power of the darkness that the Egyptians held to. Now came the time for the 10th plague. 10th plague, there's a timetable. We read it last Shabbat, a week ago. It's Exodus chapter 12 from the beginning. And the timetable says, God is giving these instructions to Moses and Aaron. First of all, you bless the new moon of Aries. It's going to be for you, for your control, the head of the months. From now on, I'm outsourcing the declaration, the definition of the new moon to you. You decide from now on to eternity when every sign, astrological sign starts. It's when you decide on Shabbat before the new moon. Then you celebrate the new moon with the certain meditations they were taught, and then you count 10 days. On the 10th day, it was Shabbat. On that day, some Kabbalists explain, after 9 plagues, after controlling the new moon of Aries, the ram god of Egypt, 10 days, 10 sephirot, 10 emanations. The emanation of the name of God, the Tetragrammaton, the Yud and the Hey, the Vav and Hey. First time for many, many, many centuries, that light could be experienced and felt. Therefore, it was the first Shabbat that the power of the connection to the upper worlds in a holy manner, that what we just spoke about, started to shine. Why Gadol? Because what is Gadol? Gadol, again in Hebrew, means great, grown up, but it means also giver, Gdula, Chesed, capable of giving. A child is katan, small, not in control. He's a slave. He's a victim. He's a blamer. He has no real responsibility. But on his 13th birthday, for a boy, 12 for a girl, they get an extra soul that gives them the ability to be Gadol, which means from that moment on, they are in full responsibility, not full, but almost till they are 20, but they get responsibility for their consciousness. They have the ability to experience what we just spoke about. Take the south node, take the north node, synthesizes them as eastern node, and experience 4 elements with the western node and be at whole. That is Gadol. That's why that light managed to manifest, and the Israelite experienced that first time after millennia. Because of that, it's called Shabbat HaGadol. It was a touch. It was just a touch. The big show was 5 days later. When they took the lamb, the ram, they slaughtered it, roasted it on fire. Aries is a fire sign, and fire you fight with fire. In order to rise, and they ate that lamb with matzah, unleavened bread, and bitter herbs, with the consciousness of overcoming the negativity. The chametz. Chametz means leavened bread, but it means also, chametz means also to miss an opportunity, miss the connection. So that's when the boundary was set, clear, cut and clear. Small and big. Katan, gadol. What Rabbi Isaac Luria is teaching us on that night of the full moon in Aries, just after making the offering of the ram, God injected to the universe all the light, all the lights of levels of experience from Katan to Gadol, from fetus consciousness, baby, a child, a grown-up, Gadol, and the highest level. All of these levels came at once on the night of Passover. Whoever participated, which means participated in the blessing of the new moon of Aries, participated in taking the lamb on the 10th day, on Shabbat HaGadol, and tied to the bed. The bed symbolized, the Zohar says, the Shekhinah, the vessel, which means it was all like premeditated. Steps of Olah, rising upwards. So Shabbat HaGadol was the first touch of taking responsibility. The symbolic act was taking the lamb and tie it, controlling it. The lamb symbolizes, whoever knows a little bit of astrology, the lamb, the ram, or the Aries is the child within each one of us. The child is Katan. What is a child? I want to have fun. I don't want responsibility. I want to do whatever I feel like. This is Katan, small head. You know, if you go with that, you are a complainer, a whiner, a victim, a loser. You're always Katan. Gadol means I am a divine creature. My job is to unite the heaven and the earth, to unite the south node with the north, the east with the west into one, and then ascend to the infinite. That's my meditation. That's my work. When I do that, I take full responsibility for my life. I'm a winner. I'm winning my calling. So Shabbat HaGadol is when we get the first touch. The night of Passover is when we really celebrate it. And that's why, if you read the Haggadah, it speaks about the small ones and the big ones. The ones who accept the idea, the ones who don't accept the idea. The ones who got out of Egypt and the ones who stayed behind. You see that all over. The ones who are small and they say the manishtana, what's happening? What changed? Oh, what changed? That everything right now is coming in a rush. And we can achieve epiphany. we can achieve that ascendance in one night, the night of Seder. Seder means the Hebrew order. When all the elements align, when all the Sefirot align, and then you can experience the infinite. When the end of the Seder comes, you experience, because if you that was your intention, you can experience being Gadol. What does it mean? That intense feeling of joy and freedom. I am happy. Why? Just because. I don't need that thing or that thing. I don't need all of that stuff that we're being brainwashed daily. In order to be happy, you need to be this, need to be that. You need to have um, that position. You need to have that amount of money. You need to have these possessions and so on and so forth. All of that is brainwashing since we are little babies. Keeps us addicted to what society dictates. And then you are katan. You are just a whiner, a complainer, a victim. You never take responsibility for your own feeling. Gadol means I'm happy now because I'm Olah. I'm ascending. I'm just doing my calling. How? I trained by meditation, by actions of grace, whatever. I train myself to have that connection. I am Gadol. I'm greater than life. I'm happy because I decided to be happy, not because somebody allowed me or gave me the acknowledgement that I'm okay and I'm supposed to be happy. No, I'm not. I don't need that. So that's what this Shabbat is about. It's about overcoming the idol worshiping, all of those addictions from within and from outside, and reaching finally on the night of the Seder, when we feel that everything is in order, everything is right and perfect, and I don't need to explain to anyone. I am free. I am Gadol. Thank you. Have a great Passover and experience that greatness. Thank you so much.